Okay, for those who can hear us and aren't sure where to give a thumbs up, there is a Q&A section at the top of the screen. Hopefully, if you open that, I've just put an announcement asking if you can give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound. This is also a place where you can ask some questions during the presentation. We may not get to many of them while we're speaking, but we certainly will be answering them towards the end of the presentation. Many of you have also registered some questions when you registered your attendance, and we'll try to respond to as many of those as we can throughout the presentation. Okay, I think we are very close to starting, so I'm just going to say a welcome to everyone who's joining us this evening. This is an event that's been running for a few years now, and it's a special event that we open up to all of our current CHAC primary parents, specifically for parents of Year 4 to 6 students, so that we can give you a little bit more of an insight into high school at CHAC and that transition to junior secondary, which is a really important transition, obviously, for our students. This is separate to the information evenings that we open up, obviously, to all of our incoming Year 7 parents in October, the year prior to Year 7 entry, and also the welcome evening at the beginning of Year 7. So we do have these two big events that probably give you a lot more of the specifics about what's going to happen closer to the date. But right now, this is a chance for you to ask any questions you have about what CHAC secondary looks like. And also, if you've got any concerns about that transition into junior secondary, we have a lot of people here who are here to share some more information. So to start us off, I'm going to introduce our principal, Mr. Gary O'Brien, over to the screen.
Thanks, Shell. Am I in? Excellent. All right, can I add my welcome to Shelley's to all of our primary parents who are joining us this evening. It's always an interesting event when we have people from grade 4 through to grade 6 from parenting, so those who are almost there into secondary school and those who are still a few years out and thinking. But I do encourage people to take the opportunity to ask questions, and I know that they will be your child specific, but that's one of the advantages of having the feed running on the right-hand side of our screen. We do this so that those people who do want to know a little bit more about what's going to be happening in secondary get an idea. We will talk a bit, and I think it's Scott who'll be talking about the things that we put in place during grade 6 to aid and assist that transition into Year 7. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the future planning and big picture thinking that's going on in the secondary school, noting that I'm going to keep it relatively brief tonight because I think there are other people who have lots more closely relevant stuff to talk about. Thanks, Shell. Coming from primary, I think one of the things that you will notice is the holistic education that we talk about from prep all the way through does start to blossom out a little bit because our students are a little bit older, they're a little bit more mature. You will find that they are striking out for more independence and gaining their own image and vision of themselves. They will have a whole range of activities that they can access, and hopefully that will help them to find their passions that they can then leap on board and pursue. We certainly do really take that 6 dimensions really seriously, from intellectual, social, physical, emotional, spiritual and aesthetic. They underpin a lot of the planning that we do. As a secondary school, we are considered to be a highly performing school. We get regularly mentioned in the press and around the place. Academically, certainly, but also for some of our extracurricular programs. And I think as kids get a little bit bigger and a bit older and a bit more mature, they do start to find those areas, whether it be performance music, whether it be in sport, whether it be in debating and some of the other intellectual competitions that are open, or social justice, environment committee. There's all of those things that they can leap into, and we certainly encourage them to engage in as much as they possibly can as they keep going through. Thanks, Shell. We do work really hard on our culture from the primary school all the way through. We do look at building an experience and having our students experience a culture where we do have a lot of respect in place. It's about honesty, it's about empathy, grit, our motto is courage and compassion, and we certainly really do push those things, and kindness as well. So that you will start to see more and more of that happen as they get older and more responsible for their own actions. We do always, thanks Shel, we do always have strategic intents, goals for what we're trying to do in the bigger scheme of things. Our current strategic intent talks about preparing world and work ready individuals, and a lot of the stuff that we talked about in the culture there and in our mission statement earlier on is doing that. It's about getting them ready for what comes next. In terms of the college property, you will be aware that we've had a ministerial infrastructure designation proposal in at the state government, and that's with them at the moment, and the final stage in that is really just the minister's approval. We're not quite sure how quickly that happens. His desk has a big pile of papers on it, and at some point ours will get to the top of the pile, but that has in it a number of plans moving forward that you as primary parents moving into the secondary will experience. So we are at the forefront having our sports facilities, so that is some extra sporting fields. It is an indoor sports centre. We are looking at a student wellbeing and administration centre where the current admin building up in the middle of secondary is, and a number of other projects on the go that will enhance what's available for your students when they do come up into the secondary school. We will certainly be sharing a lot more of that information as time goes by, and there'll be some opportunities for you to contribute to what happens moving forward as well. And I think I'll take this as an opportunity to plug the whole of college survey that you'll be receiving information about at the end of this week. We really will be using that to assist us in our planning of the next phase of the development of CHAC as a whole. So I do encourage people to take that opportunity to fill that survey in for us. We're using a company that is the biggest company for this in Australia, and so one of the added advantages is that we get a whole lot of benchmarking information as well. So comparing the answers that we get at CHAC to what happens at other similar schools and other schools around the state and the country. So looking forward to sharing all that information with people as well. I know there's a few more nitty gritty things that people are probably wanting to focus on right now. So I'm going to hand over to Scott, our head of primary, who you all know and love so much now, to talk about transitioning and the programs and the approach that we take to help CHAC students who have been through CHAC primary to make that smooth transition into the secondary school. So thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Gary. Next slide, please, Shelley, if you could. Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Yes, it's a really important time in our children's life. It's an exciting time when they are coming to the end of year 6 and moving into year 7. And I think it's important to note that we do think of primary or the final year of primary as just that. It's the final year of primary school. So we don't spend the entirety of that year preparing them for year 7. It's not a preparation year for high school, but we do quite a few things that help them to transition across. And I think that the students at CHAC will certainly get an advantage coming from the primary school going into the senior school, which they should. And I suppose the biggest thing in their favour is the familiarity that they have, not only with the secondary campus, because they go across it quite often, if not going up to see the library or visiting the library, going to the canteen, etc. They go there for a variety of reasons, but also, and probably more importantly than that, they've already built a lot of friendships. And so they're starting their first days up in the senior school already knowing a lot of children, which is a really big advantage, because having a friend to lean on in a new environment is certainly something that's really important to them. But there are some other elements too. There's certainly some key support staff that are shared. Many of the staff in the senior school will certainly be familiar with the children already, and that's really important too. particularly this year in Year 6, with their use of the diary, the projects that they undertake in terms of the Chatpreneurs, the primary hub, it's all about time management and helping them to be better at managing their time and managing the types of assignments and things that they will get when they go into the senior school environment. Probably the other really big advantage for them too is that the shared platforms that we have. So the children use Teams regularly, and they also do a lot of their work on OneNote. So at the moment, our students who are in Year 6 are doing a big project, the Chatpreneurs, and all of that work is done on OneNote and through Teams. So they have to build a portfolio on there, and then they'll get feedback through that. And so that's something that they will continue to use as they go up into the senior school. We also have representation at Year 7 camp to help those students find their way in a normal year where Year 7 camp happens at the time that that's not COVID. And so that's really a nice thing to have too, so that we've got someone up in that environment that can help to explain to the teachers and the staff up there any problems that our children might have in the primary school, and can support them in that manner. And that probably is the final point there, that we have a handover meeting at the end of the year to talk about any children that are having any problems, any issues, so that we have a full brief for staff as they go up into the senior school and they know those students well as they go up into that senior environment. The handover is thorough with all the stakeholders that we need to have involved, and it also includes those students that are receiving some type of student support or learning enrichment. And so those things all together, I think, really do give our students from primary an advantage as they go up into that secondary environment. And we've got Susie Alexander here too as well for questions, because as you know, there might be some things that I can't answer at the moment, not having gone through this process, but Susie is also here to help out with any questions that you might have. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Miss Jenny Middleton, our Assistant Principal Curriculum, to give you a little bit more information about the senior environment. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just hoping you can hear me, because I had two things to turn on. I just hope that they both turned on. Yes, I'm the Assistant Principal in Teaching and Learning, and I'm just going to talk very briefly about what we do in junior secondary, and particularly in Year 7 and 8 with respect to the subjects that students do. Thanks, Shelley. We do follow a CARA to the letter throughout the school. So the Year 7 subjects, we do the core subjects of English, Maths, Science, History, Geography. They do get to choose one of two languages, either French or Japanese. Students coming through from the CHAC primary school often do choose Japanese, but some like to do something a little bit different, and so they choose French. The only thing that we recommend is that if students do have a native language in either of those subjects, that they do choose the other subject to give them that breadth of understanding that they need to move into the higher classes. Students can't do both. We tend to only offer one of those languages for each student, because in grade 11 and 12 they can't do two languages anyway, so we want to maintain that flow. They also do subjects like HPE, Life and Faith, which they do throughout the school. In arts, for example, they also have a choice of, or they also study the 4 subjects: music, drama, visual art and media studies. They do one of these each in each of the 4 terms, and they rotate through. In grade 8, they choose 2 of visual art, music and drama. Media isn't offered until an elective in grade 9 and 10. And they do those 2 subjects 1 per semester in grade 8. That's right. In grade 8, again, we follow the national curriculum. And students, again, they follow the same, they do the same language that they did in grade 7. And then when they move into grade 9 and grade 10, etc., they can choose French or Japanese as an elective. They also are able to choose to study a subject called ITD, which is the tech studies subject, and they get to do all sorts of fun things with technology and in the workshops at school. Other than that, we have a pretty standard curriculum in grades 7 and 8 because it's when they get into grade 9 and the upper levels that they start choosing subjects that they are very interested in and can then focus on as they move into grade 11 and 12. I will now pass you over to our Director of Junior Secondary, where she'll talk about a lot of other very important aspects of junior secondary. Thank you, Shelley.
And again, hopefully you can hear me. We've just done a bit of a transition here, so hopefully the sound is working. So I look after year 7, 8 and 9 students in the high school, and as Scott mentioned, I spend a bit of time especially during the end of the year 6 year, getting to know those year 6 students from our TAC primary a little bit better, so that there is a familiar face there, and that transition, that handover is really important for us as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our transition processes and also the pastoral structure that we have in the high school. Obviously, year 7 is a big year for our students. There are a lot of changes, but it's also a really exciting year because they are stepping up a little bit and they do enjoy gradually developing that greater sense of independence and exploring a wider range of subjects as well. But to make that transition a little bit easier, we do put things in place so that there is not such a big jump from year 6 to year 7. One of those is for our junior secondary students, our year 7 students. We have our junior secondary building where it becomes a bit of a home base for our students. The majority of their classes will be in the same classroom, so they have that sense of familiarity. They will also mostly have the same students in their classes as well, so they're getting to know a small group of students really well initially before they spend some time with the wider cohort. Obviously, for our specialist subjects, they do get to explore some of our specialist classrooms as well, so they move up to the science building for science and the arts classrooms for their arts lessons, things like that. So there's a little bit of a mix, and obviously that gradually expands as they move into year 8 and start moving more confidently around the college. We also have a subject in year 7 called ILG, or integrated learning, and it's again a class helping to develop the skills that students need in high school, moving right through to senior, and we start introducing some really important study techniques just very gradually, so they have a chance to actually look at the benefits of some of these techniques and then practice them in the subjects that they're going to be studying at that particular time. So that's what our year 7 students are doing at the moment in preparation for upcoming assessment. We also spend some time developing skills and some of those programs that we use, and obviously on their laptops. So all of our students coming in from a variety of schools developing familiarity with OneNote, with Microsoft Teams, with electronic file organisation, which is also a big step up for some of our students, and in general organising themselves to move around to different classrooms and getting a sense of changed routines and structures in each of those classes. We also look at study planners, backward mapping assessments, so they're also preparing for those busy periods in the terms. We do referencing and a lot of those other things that are really important in high school. We have some junior secondary mentors. We've got some year 12 mentors, and we also have some very excited year 9 junior secondary representatives who have taken up a leadership position for the first time in the high school. Often a lot of those students were CHAC primary students themselves, and they're very excited to help our year 7 students transition into the high school at the beginning of the year. A lot of these students also go on camp with our Year 7s. The camp program, again, in a typical year, this would be at the beginning of the year, and it's a really important time for our students to just leave everything that's happening on campus behind for a few days so they can focus on really getting to know their cohort, getting to know their teachers, their heads of house, and actually enjoying just spending time with each other before life gets a little bit busier on campus. We have what we call personal development days right through the junior school. So we have one in Year 7, in Year 8 and in Year 9. So again, it's that time to just step away from what's happening in a busy day on college, at the college, so that they can again get to know other students in the cohort and also get to know themselves a little bit better. So probably trying to step outside their comfort zone a little bit, try a few different roles and responsibilities, challenge themselves in different areas as well, and generally walk away knowing a little bit more about themselves, maybe what they'd like to try a little bit differently, or how they can push themselves a little bit further next time, but also probably walking away getting to know a few new students in their cohort. Also in Year 7, obviously with so many different subjects, we do make sure that there is a much greater percentage of class time when we're moving into assessment. So teachers will scaffold a lot of that assessment and they will go through that with them in class. Obviously, as they move into the senior years, there's probably a greater expectation on some of that being done at home, but we are very aware that a lot of this is new for our junior students. And some of our pastoral structures that are a big part of our high school. The first one, and I know that there are quite a few questions about our homeroom structure. We have a vertical homeroom structure, which means that our students will be in a homeroom with Year 7 right through to Year 12 students. It becomes their CHAC secondary family, and generally they'll have the same teacher for those 6 years as well. So it's a very special group who develop a very special community as well. If you float around the school, you'll see a different character, a different community in each of those homerooms. And I always say it's a very sad day when they are farewelling their big brothers and big sisters when our Year 12s leave us each year, but also very exciting when they're welcoming their new Year 7 students the following year. We have what's called CHAC community sessions, which is a year level program that goes through so many age appropriate qualities and sessions that are really important to students at that time in their adolescence. So for Year 7s, we focus a lot on, again, developing those relationships early on in Year 7 by doing some fun activities where they can actually meet like-minded peers and actually just spend some time enjoying each other's company. And we move through, we look at obviously things like being safe online, you know, conflict resolution. So what happens if there are some issues? How can we work through those, and gradually moving into issues such as mental health and supporting peers, things like that. We have house meetings, which again is 7 through 12, and head of house is another very important support for our students in the high school. And they will get to know both their homeroom teacher and their head of house really well over the 6 years. And that head of house and homeroom teacher will also be the person that gets to know them really well and is a good person who can support them if there are any changes or if there are any issues that they need to have a conversation about. Obviously, things like assemblies, year level meetings and chapel services will follow through similar to what students have experienced in the primary school. But again, as the students get older, they will also change and students will take on different roles and responsibilities in those more formal settings as well. When needed, we absolutely have a wide range of support staff who are here to work with our students, from our psychologists, our college nurse, our college chaplain, heads of house, homeroom teachers, and all of the classroom teachers that support your students along the way are also part of that team. I'm just going to put up all of the other opportunities available to your child when they move into junior secondary. So many of these would already be available in the primary school, obviously with the number of students. These expand quite a bit, and we do encourage students to get involved because it's one of the best way to again meet like-minded peers and to develop that sense of belonging at the college. So as you can see here, I won't go through them all, but there are so many different activities to explore. And as students move into year 7, we actually get a lot of the senior students to go through some of these activities, explain what they can be doing, what they're about, and a lot of these opportunities will be read through the notices and offered to students throughout the year. Now I'm just going to move on. I'm sure that might be a few families who have seen this video, but it was a wonderful video that was put together by our marketing team last year. And I know that many of you will recognise these faces. These are all past CHAC primary students who were interviewed last year about their experience in high school so far. So this was about May last year that they actually answered some of these questions. So I'm just going to take a moment to set this up so you can have a listen to their views.
We chose CHAC Secondary because it's got the same CHAC spirit, which has been going since the beginning of prep or whenever you came, right through to grade 12. It has many leadership opportunities that will also arise, and many different sporting opportunities, debating, which you can do in CHAC Secondary.
We chose CHAC Secondary because we had lots of friends here, and we were excited for the learning opportunities.
It's really close to home, and we had a lot of friends here previously by attending CHAC Primary.
I chose CHAC Secondary because there were a lot of new people to meet and there were a lot of nice teachers here.
I knew so many people coming to secondary, so I thought, well, obviously I'm going to go there because then it will be much easier to, get to know people.
I chose CHAC Secondary because I was familiar with the environment, and so it was easier, like walking around the college and just getting to know high school better.
There are so many more sport choices that you can do and music things, and so I feel like that's really cool.
I love how most of our subjects are in the same classroom, so it's a lot easier instead of moving around the whole school.
The great thing about CHAC Secondary is getting to do heaps of new things that you didn't get to do in CHAC Primary, and you get to make friends when new people come to the college, which is also a really good opportunity.
I really enjoy all of the activities in the mornings and how it's all planned out, so you know exactly what you're doing every morning and getting to know new people.
There are a lot of subjects that you can do in CHAC Secondary, and you can also do extracurricular things like sport and music.
We love CHAC Secondary because there's a lot of natural environment, and the teachers are really nice and welcoming when you first come.
It's a really nurturing environment and you always feel welcome, and yeah, you learn a lot and the environment's lovely.
The highlight of grade 7 has been going on the school camp, where you got to meet a lot of new people who are coming to school, and also getting the opportunity to go do crates, things like crate stacking and kayaking, which are really fun at the college, the camp.
My highlight of year 7 was the camp because I met a lot of my new friends there.
In camp, I met a lot of my new friends, and then we had all the fun activities like the possum glider and the raft built.
My highlight for year 7 is probably year 7 camp. We met a lot of new friends and learnt some really good teamwork skills.
My highlight of CHAC Secondary so far has been meeting all my new teachers. It was really fun and they were all really kind towards us.
I'm really excited about being involved in the enterprise program and the business program because I really enjoyed CHACpreneurs in year 6, so I'm quite excited about that.
I'm looking forward to doing the enterprise program and leadership opportunities.
I really look forward to doing a lot more music and doing English. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the language department and extracurricular opportunities further through high school.
I'm really excited for the leadership roles that are coming up and all the enterprise things that we can do.
I look forward to the environmental and girls committee that we can do later on in track?
When I get past year 7, I'd like to be part of the leadership in year 9 and year 12, and also join the Enterprise Centre, as it looks quite fun being able to do business and economics as well.
Oh, is that 1, 2? Okay, there we go. Okay, and I hope that's given you a little bit of perspective from our students, and they're always the best ones to talk to when it comes to moving into CHAC and being part of our CHAC community. What we're going to do now is we're going to move into the chat part of this presentation. So I do have a few questions that were registered that I'm going to respond to on the chat as well, but this is an opportunity for you to please type in any questions that you have. We've got a wonderful group of all of our presenters who are going to be on the chat answering your questions, and Susie Alexander has also joined us this evening to help respond to some of those questions. So again, thank you for joining us for this presentation. I will be sending out both the video and the Q&A responses so that those who weren't able to be here tonight can also watch it, but I look forward to answering your questions on the chat. So I'm going to turn off the camera and the mic now, and I hope to see you on campus soon.